Thank you for joining me today as we continue to look at the book of James and in our study and trying to find out how we should be living for Christ. And today we're going to be looking at James chapter 1, verses 9 through 12. And we have a unique opportunity to look into this picture of what James is looking for us to do in our lives. How do we take what life has given us, and how do we then show God our appreciation, our desires for Him? So let's go ahead and break out. We'll just begin reading in James chapter 1, beginning in verse 9. And it says, "Let the lowly brother boast in his exaltation, and the rich in his humiliation, because like a flower of the grass he will pass away." So let's begin with verse 9 and trying to grasp a little bit of understanding of what James may be trying to get across to us here. And the first thing that you notice is that he says the lowly brother, and he's not referring to lowly in a spiritual sense, but in a worldly sense, that the world would consider him low. So that would be someone who may be poor, not have a high stature or status in the world, someone who may just be struggling through life, where it's a little bit more difficult. We all know a lowly brother. In fact, a lot of us are lowly brothers as we look at this. But, there's also a key thing he says that we need to pay attention to. He calls him brother. So this is someone who's a believer, someone who is following Christ, someone who has given their life to him. And for James to call you a brother, then that tells you exactly where his viewpoint is, that being lowly is not necessarily a bad thing. I'll pull it back up here for you, but you can see that he is calling for his brothers who are considered less in the world to boast in his exaltation. So, boasting in his exaltation. Why would you be so excited about being poor and lowly? The truth of this is that what he's saying is your relationship with Christ is greater than anything that this world has to offer. And so we boast in Christ. We exalt Christ. We lift our lives up. We are rich through Christ, and not rich because of the world or what the world would have us to believe about ourselves. And he continues on, and he says, "And the rich in his humiliation." So James isn't saying that it's unchristian to have money and to have a position of authority or title in the world, but what he's saying is that you should be humble, that you should understand that you don't have that by your doing, but through the providence of God and the sacrifice of Jesus are you able to then have this richness of this world. Now, this is also assuming that you're a believer, because you would be humbled by your position, and you would be helping your lowly brother. And he makes a strong point as to why we should be humble if we have any kind of riches or authority or position in the world. It's because like a flower of the grass, he will pass away. So James is pretty clear here. Flowers last for a season and they're gone. They may come back the next season, but they only last for a season. And as we look at this picture, this life is a season, and eternity is the goal. It is what we're looking for, and it is where our reward is. So, looking at the picture that James is painting for us, we can start to see this picture that, yes, you may have riches and position here on this earth, but that's not going to last you for eternity. Let's go ahead and look at verse 11. It says, "For the sun rises with its scorching heat and withers the grass. Its flower falls, and its beauty perishes. So also will the rich man fade away in the midst of his pursuits." It's pretty obvious that, James is once again trying to get us to grasp this bigger concept. And the bigger concept is eternity. And no matter what we're doing here, how much success we're having here, there comes a day when that ends. And when that ends, all of the stuff here stays here. Someone else comes into possession of it, whether it be your debt or whether it be your riches, whether it be your possessions or your lack of possessions. Somebody else ends up with them. We think of it, and we'll use the term inheritance when we're talking about family members and what they can gain from the passing of another family member. But the truth is that the inheritance would be through Jesus and not from those worldly possessions. Because the worldly possessions, once again, you don't get to keep them forever, and when you do leave this world, you are leaving them and someone else is getting them. And a lot of times today in the United States, even it goes to court and a judge decides where these possessions go, this inheritance. And so when James says that, it's like the flower and it's going to pass away, that's literally what he means, that it's just not going to last because the end is going to come. And so we should be very humble in that position. We should be very proud and boastful in the position of our relationship with Christ. And if we have worldly possessions, we don't flaunt those and be boastful about those. We're boastful about Jesus. Verse 12 says, "Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial. For when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him." So this verse is, the whole thing that ties it in together. No matter what your trials, your situation is, when you can hold true to Christ through that, you're going to receive the reward, the crown of life. Your name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life, and you get that because God promised it to you, because you love him. And when you love him, what that means is that you serve him. And if you serve him, then you're taking all of these lessons and you're applying them into your life. No matter how bad life looks in the moment, I count it joy. I find my position with God and with Jesus more powerful than anything that can occur on this earth. No matter who stands against me, what stands against me, no matter what I'm facing, I have Christ with me. So even if it is that I am wealthy and in this world everything appears to be wonderful, that's a test and a trial, because then will you lean on Christ? Will you be humble? If you have nothing and you're struggling to go day by day, then that's a test and a trial. Not one is higher than the other and not one is lower than the other, but both require us to follow Jesus, to stay with Jesus, and hold true to him. So, what is our big lesson today? Our big lesson, the big point today is no matter where you are in life, no matter what it is that is being thrown your way, that we need to hold true to Jesus Christ and to his teaching, to his love, and then we can claim the crown of life. Only then can we claim the crown of life. I appreciate you studying with me today. I hope you've enjoyed these short lessons. We'll be continuing on next week.